They came back expecting a routine moment and instead walked into a mystery that would change how they understood everything. What they saw made them uncomfortable, curious, and silent all at once. This single scene reveals how God's work often moves far ahead of human expectations. The disciples were returning from the town, their arms likely full with food, their minds focused on practical needs. Hunger had driven them away from Jesus for a short while, and in that brief absence, something unexpected had unfolded. As they approached, they saw him sitting by the well, not alone, but engaged in conversation. A woman stood nearby, a Samaritan woman. The moment stopped them in their tracks. Nothing in their training, their culture, or their assumptions prepared them for this sight. Jewish men did not speak publicly with Samaritan women. Teachers did not engage in personal dialogue at wells. And yet, there Jesus was, calm, present, completely unbothered by boundaries others treated as immovable. The disciples felt the tension immediately. Scripture tells us they were astonished, yet none of them asked, "What do you want?" or "Why are you talking with her?" Their silence spoke volumes. That silence reveals something deeply human. When God works outside our expectations, our first response is often confusion rather than understanding. The disciples had followed Jesus, witnessed miracles, and listened to his teachings. Yet this moment still unsettled them. It challenged their categories of who God speaks to, how he speaks, and where holy moments are allowed to happen. As the disciples stood there processing what they saw, the woman quietly left. She did not linger to explain herself. She did not wait for approval. She went back to her town with urgency and purpose, carrying a message that would ripple outward. Her departure is almost easy to overlook, but it marks a turning point. She came to the well alone and burdened. She left it sent, transformed, and bold. Jesus then turned his attention back to the disciples, who were still focused on the food they had brought. They urged him to eat. Their concern was sincere. They wanted to care for their teacher. But Jesus responded with words that once again shifted the conversation to a deeper level. He said he had food to eat that they knew nothing about. This confused them even more. They began wondering if someone else had brought him food while they were gone. Once again, their thinking stayed on the surface. Physical hunger, physical provision, practical concerns. Jesus used that moment to teach them something essential about the nature of his mission. He explained that his nourishment came from doing the will of the one who sent him and completing his work. In other words, obedience sustained him more than bread. Purpose strengthened him more than rest. This was not a rejection of physical needs, but a reordering of priorities. Jesus was showing them that God's work feeds the soul in ways nothing else can. Then he pointed them toward the fields and invited them to look, not with their eyes alone, but with spiritual awareness. He spoke of harvest, of readiness, of timing. The disciples lived in a world where planting and harvesting followed strict seasons. You sowed, you waited, and only later did you reap. But Jesus was revealing a different reality. In God's kingdom, the harvest was already ripe. The woman who had just left was evidence of that. A conversation by a well had already begun, a movement in a town the disciples likely avoided. Jesus was helping them see that God's work does not always follow human timelines. Sometimes the seed and the harvest meet in the same moment. Sometimes God is already working in places we have overlooked. He went on to speak about sowers and reapers, about shared joy and shared labor. One person plants, another gathers, but both are part of the same purpose. This teaching gently corrected the disciples' understanding of their role. They were not the starting point of God's work, nor would they always see its completion. They were participants in something much larger than themselves. This moment mattered deeply because it expanded their vision. Until now, much of their focus had been inward. Who is greatest? Who understands best? Who is closest to Jesus? But here, Jesus redirected their attention outward, toward the world, toward people different from them, toward a mission that required humility and trust. The disciples had gone to buy food, but they returned to find that nourishment was being given in another way. A woman they would not have spoken to had become a witness. A town they might have avoided was about to encounter truth. The work of God had advanced while they were busy with ordinary tasks. This can be uncomfortable to recognize. It reminds us that God does not pause his plans when we step away. He does not wait for our approval or understanding. His Spirit moves continually, often in quiet conversations, ordinary places, and unexpected people. The disciples' astonishment also exposes how easily faith can coexist with unexamined bias. They believed in Jesus, yet still carried assumptions shaped by culture and habit. Jesus did not shame them, but he did not cater those assumptions either. He simply continued doing the work he was sent to do, inviting them to catch up. That invitation still stands today. We are often like the disciples, focused on immediate needs, routines, and familiar spaces. Meanwhile, God is having conversations we are not part of, awakening hearts we have overlooked, and preparing harvests we did not expect. Jesus' words about harvest were not abstract. They were immediate and urgent. The disciples were standing on the edge of something new. Soon, Samaritans would come out to see Jesus for themselves. Soon, boundaries would blur. Soon, the message would expand beyond what they imagined possible. This passage teaches us that obedience is not always comfortable, and understanding does not always come first. Sometimes we are called to trust that God knows what he is doing, even when his methods challenge us. Sometimes we are invited to lay down our assumptions and learn again what love looks like in action. The disciples rejoined Jesus that day, thinking they were returning to him. In reality, they were stepping into a broader vision of his mission, a mission that includes unlikely people, a mission that values quiet faithfulness, a mission where the harvest is ready, even when we are not. This moment also reminds us that no conversation with God is wasted. What seemed like a private exchange between Jesus and one woman became the doorway to transformation for many. God often works through the overlooked and the underestimated to reveal his power most clearly. As we reflect on this scene, we are invited to ask ourselves where we might be missing God's work because it does not fit our expectations. Who might he be speaking to that we have ignored? What fields might already be ripe that we have not bothered to see? Jesus calls his followers not just to walk beside him, but to see as he sees, to recognize that spiritual hunger exists everywhere, to understand that obedience brings its own kind of sustenance, and to rejoice in a harvest that belongs to God alone. Thank you for watching this video on Holy Path Insights. If this message encouraged you or gave you new perspective, please like the video, follow the channel, and share it with others who may need to hear it. Your support helps spread these timeless truths.